I was born December 27, 1942, and given the name Judith Ann Sadler. My name was to have been Linda, but my mother's cousin had her baby first and named her little girl Linda. When I went to school, I found out that my name was to be shared with a good many other girls my age. I was born at the beginning of World War II, and food and many necessities were scarce. I was the oldest of 12 children. I was very fortunate to have known both my grandmothers and have a lot of memories of growing up with their constant influence. I also remember nearly all my brothers and sisters growing up. Mom had difficult pregnancies and even miscarried a few times, and it seemed that she quite often needed help. I recall making bread, babysitting, and telling stories to keep the children occupied. It didn't take long to figure out that it was easier to entertain them than to chase them. Mom had a job at the high school cleaning. Sometimes I would work this job for her if she needed help. I liked to make puppets, write and direct, and put on shows. I played the violin in orchestra for 9 years, enjoyed concert choir, English, business classes, and pep club. Some of my memories of growing up in a bustling household was never getting enough sleep. When you sleep in the basement, there was always a good chance that someone would be awake until 10:30 p.m. and walking around on the floor upstairs. There was also a good chance that someone would be awake at 6:30 a.m. One thing I could never figure out was that it was that way even on weekends. Some of my memories include listening to radio shows, shining shoes for the entire family on Saturday, taking up a whole row in the center part of the chapel, haircut that took all day completing because Dad had clippers that worked by hand and not electricity, filling the hopper and emptying the coal ashes, baby bottles that were glass with the nipple stretched over the top, babies that loved to throw glass bottles on elevated wood floors in church just to hear them roll all the way from the back row to the front row, strikes that put Dad off of work that last for more than a year, yet we found enough to eat through such times such as powdered milk, food from Aunt Eve's garden, and duck eggs. I also remember going to Buck's store and charging food. He kept food on our table during those hard times. It took a while to pay back the owner for what he let us have. As a child, he had one of the biggest candy supplies I ever saw in my life, so Barbara, Lon, and I decided if he lets us charge food, why not candy? So when Mom sent us down to the store, we did just that, charge a bunch of candy. We knew immediately that the owner called Mom, and we knew we better not do that again, but we got to keep the candy. Being a creative child, I found myself involved in many self-made situations just to break the monotony. One such situation, my mother had some friends who brought their children over. Lon, Barbara, and I decided to tell the kids that someone was in their house killing our mothers. We all got a chuckle when we saw the look on their faces. We noticed one of the kids run out to the street and talk to a man who was doing repair work. Then all was forgotten. We figured that no one in their right mind would believe such a story. Later that afternoon, when the friends had gone home, a police car pulled up to our house. The officer got out. We followed him to the door of the house, and when my mother answered, he said, "We understand a murder has been committed here." "Shh," my mother said. "There has?" Lon started to laugh, and the police officer got angry and blamed him and said, "That's what you get for reading so many comic books." In junior high, I realized all this imagination could be used productively by composing stories. Several teachers felt that my writing was too advanced for my age, and many times I had to bring a note from home informing the teachers that I, in fact, written it. As an adult, I wrote a Christmas play, and for many years has been a source of satisfaction to me. It is presented annually to different schools around Salt Lake. I visited my Grandma Sadler daily when she moved into our basement. I thought she was lonely, but when I was grown, I found that all the kids visited her daily. We probably drove her nuts. Sorry, Grandma. She would tell us stories that always had a moral to it. Somehow, she knew just the story for whatever your particular problem that you needed to work on was. I always wanted to try harder after one of her stories were over. When she lived with us, she worked in the Lamanite mission, and Mom and Dad were president and secretary over the mission in our stake. There was an endless array of people that came in and out of the house. Barbara and I even taught some of the lessons to the new missionaries coming in. We shared a bedroom in Grandma's apartment, and she had a supply of jewelry that would make a pirate proud. One morning we woke up and Grandma was upstairs visiting my mother. We decided we wanted to see her jewelry. We knew we could hear her coming and would have plenty of time to put it away. We got a little carried away and tried on more than we should have. When we heard the door about to open, Barbara froze, but my quick thinking got me out of it again. I threw all my jewelry around my sister's neck and ran to my bed and shut my eyes. I laid there for a long time and listened to Grandma talk to Barb about what she had done. And then she brought her into the bedroom and said, "Why can't you be like your sister?" It was all I could do not to burst into laughter. Grandma was a short woman with long hair past her buttocks. I loved to watch her comb it and braid it on top of her head. She always had combs to put it in that made it look very elegant. Grandma Mitchell Julie was always riding the bus and lived outside Magna because of the smelter smoke. She owned a home there but rarely lived in it. She always had gifts of food that she'd pack carefully in a box and carried lovingly on the bus just to put it into our dirty little hands to eat. She was very economy-minded. I recall shopping all day long to save $1 on food. I easily spent 10 on gas to drive her around, and of course she had no way of knowing this, and always generally offered me $1 for my trouble. I always refused, but she insisted. I remember her tatting, crocheting. She helped bedridden people, and I remember her soaking her badly deformed feet to make them feel better. She never forgot your birthday and always gave us that special thing we didn't dare ask for at Christmas time. She had a green thumb, and our house was filled with plants. She got a lot of satisfaction in making quilts. I am thankful for such a close-knit family who believes in me and supports me even when I don't deserve it. This has made me really believe in myself and encourage me when I need it most. If everyone had such a wonderful family, this world would be in pretty good shape. I am presently working as a preschool teacher and planning on going back to school. I am married to Gary Wendell Hakanson, and I'm grateful to him that he is willing to take a chance with a woman who had 5 children, 4 girls and a boy, and all the responsibilities he's willing to accept. His lifestyle has definitely changed. I'm proud of all my children, Holly, Lisa, Cindy, Laura, and David.